You didn't click on this by accident. This found you. Right here, right now. Because something inside you has been quietly reaching for clarity, for comfort, for confirmation. And this message? It's your reminder that you're not walking this path alone. Take a breath and just listen. Really listen. Because sometimes, the most powerful answers don't come as loud thunder or flashing signs. They come as a quiet whisper that feels like it was meant just for you. And this whisper has your name on it. Maybe lately you've been feeling like everything is shifting. People pulling away, emotions rising that you can't explain. A sense that something big is coming, but you can't quite name it. It's not your imagination, it's alignment. You are being pulled into position. You've been asking, praying, waiting, and now heaven is moving. But with that movement comes pressure, comes discomfort, comes release. And that's why this message is arriving now, because you needed the reminder. You're not lost, you're being led. Let me say that again, not just to your ears, but to your soul. You are not lost, you are being led. Some of you have been in a season of hiddenness, where you feel unseen, uncelebrated, underestimated. But do you know what happens in hiddenness? Refinement. Diamonds aren't shaped on display. They're cut deep in darkness. And the truth is, the greater the light you carry, the longer the preparation often feels. But you're not being punished. You're being prepared. You were chosen not just to carry light, but to survive darkness. And you've done that, quietly, faithfully. So when the shift happens, when the release comes, don't be surprised, don't shrink, don't question your worth. Because what's coming is a harvest you didn't even know you planted. This is why it's been heavy. This is why it's been quiet. Because heaven was working in the silence. And now, it's almost time for the reveal. You've been misunderstood. You've been called too sensitive, too intense, too different. But what they don't realize is your sensitivity was your strength. Your intensity was your discernment. Your difference was divine. Chosen ones always feel like misfits until the moment they're needed. And that moment is approaching. So if you've been doubting yourself, if you've been wondering if God hears you, if you've been tempted to give up, don't. Please don't. Because this message isn't just a video, it's a lifeline, a spiritual timestamp. A reminder from the divine that your obedience hasn't gone unnoticed. Your sacrifices weren't wasted. And soon the ones who walked away will witness the one who rose, quietly, faithfully, humbly. So take this message as a sign. You're exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't feel like it. Because breakthrough rarely feels comfortable, but it always feels right when it arrives. You know, the thing they don't tell you about being chosen is how isolating it can feel. There's this myth that that's not the truth, is it? The truth is, being chosen often feels like being abandoned first, like being thrown into the wilderness with no map, like waking up one day and realizing the people you thought would always be there aren't. The conversations dry up, the support vanishes, the smiles shift into side eyes, and you start to ask, what did I do wrong? Why do I feel so different from everyone else? Why does my heart break this much for things other people ignore? But that pain you're feeling, that disconnection, is not punishment. It's protection. God has a pattern. Before he reveals you, he removes you. Removes you from toxic friendships. Removes you from old environments. Removes the distractions that dilute your vision. Why? Because where you're going, not everyone can follow. Because what's growing in you is sacred. And sacred things don't grow in crowded rooms. Let's pause here for a second. You ever wonder why certain people just started falling away from your life? Why old connections don't hit the same anymore? Why you feel exhausted trying to explain yourself, your vision, your emotions? That's because you've outgrown the room. Your frequency has shifted. And now even silence feels more honest than most conversations. You're not meant to shrink to fit anymore. You're meant to expand. You've reached a point where your spirit can't lie to itself anymore. And that's a sacred breaking point. Because when your soul refuses to pretend, that's when your transformation begins. You're becoming someone who doesn't just talk about growth. You are growth. And people don't always like that, because your presence becomes a mirror. You force them to see what they've been ignoring in themselves, and instead of honoring your light, some try to dim it. But listen closely. Your light is not up for negotiation. Your calling is not on trial. Your destiny doesn't need permission to unfold. You were born to disrupt the patterns, to break the curses, to carry the kind of wisdom that can't be taught, only remembered. So yes, people may call you intense, too emotional, too sensitive, too deep. But what they really mean is, you see too clearly, you feel too deeply, you hear too much, and that scares them. Because most people are running from themselves. But you're running toward truth, toward alignment, toward purpose. You're not crazy. You're awake. And the more you awaken, the more the world around you will start to shift. Things you used to tolerate will now feel unbearable. Places you once craved will now feel hollow. People you once chased will now confuse you with their chaos. You see, the world will never fully understand a soul like yours, because most people live on the surface. God made you that way on purpose. You weren't built for crowds, noise, or applause. You were built for alignment, clarity, and truth. You weren't sent to blend in. You were sent to shift atmospheres. Even as a child, you could sense it. You never quite fit in, not at school, not even sometimes at home. You always knew there was something more, a calling, a frequency, a voice inside whispering, "You're here to do something different." But along the way, that voice got buried under expectations, under pressure, under betrayal, under heartbreak. And for a while, you may have even forgotten who you were. You doubted yourself. You tried to make yourself smaller, quieter, easier to digest. You thought maybe if you toned it down, you'd be more accepted, more loved, more normal. Now you know, that was never the point. You weren't supposed to be normal. You were supposed to be chosen. Chosen to carry light in dark places. Chosen to speak truth when it's uncomfortable. Chosen to move differently, pray differently, love differently. And now something sacred is happening. You're not just remembering your worth, you're reclaiming it. You're waking up, not just spiritually, but mentally, emotionally, physically. Old patterns are falling off you like dead skin. Old cycles are losing their grip. Old wounds no longer define you, they refined you. You can feel it, can't you? You're walking into rooms with a different presence. You're no longer explaining yourself. You're just being. People sense it. Some respect it. Some fear it. That's not your concern. Because what's happening in you now, this quiet rebuilding, is heaven's way of setting the stage for what's next. You're being positioned, not to chase, but to attract. Not to force, but to flow. Because when you carry divine energy, you don't beg. You don't chase. You align. You draw in the right people, the right opportunities, the resources, the healing, the abundance, the favor. And it's not because of luck or chance. It's because you finally stopped betraying yourself. You chose alignment over approval. You chose peace over chaos. You chose purpose over popularity. You chose to listen when God whispered, "It's time." And now your life is shifting. Not all at once, but in sacred, subtle ways. New doors are opening. Divine connections are forming. Clarity is coming. Provision is showing up. You're not waiting for a breakthrough. You are the breakthrough. And yes, this journey gets lonely sometimes. Yes, the silence can be deafening. Yes, the tests come back to back. But hear this. You didn't come this far to stop now. You didn't endure all of that just to play small. You've been through the fire and now you're coming out gold. People will wonder how you're glowing without validation. Time now, not to prove anything, but to walk fully in who you are. You are no longer in the stage of becoming. You are being. No longer begging to be seen. You see yourself. No longer hoping to be chosen. You know you already are. And because of that awareness, your energy has shifted. Where once there was anxiety, now there's certainty. Where once there was self-doubt, now there's grounded knowing. Where once you lowered your standards for fear of being too much, now you sit in rooms knowing you bring more than enough. You no longer chase. You no longer shrink. You no longer explain. You just exist, and everything that's meant for you is already on its way. God isn't done with you. He's only just begun. The protection over your life? It's not a coincidence. The way doors are suddenly swinging open? It's not random. The people who left without warning? It was all divine subtraction. Making space for real love, divine purpose, legacy-building connections. You're walking into the season of your becoming, the level where God not only restores, but multiplies. Where He not only gives you back what you lost, but adds what you didn't even know you needed. The silence served a purpose. The pruning served a purpose. Now comes the harvest. And this time, it's not about hustle. It's about alignment. It's not about proving. It's about flowing. You're not starting over. You're starting from wisdom. You're not empty. You're filled with discernment, with clarity, with divine instruction. You were sent here to be a light in dark places. And now, that light can't be dimmed. Not by opinions, not by loss, not by fear, not even by your past. Your path has always been protected. You just didn't always realize how powerful your presence was, but now you do. So now I ask you, from a place of realness and alignment, what are you going to do with that power? Because the world needs your story, not the perfect version, not the edited one, the real one. The one that says, I was crushed, but I didn't quit. The one that says I was overlooked, but I kept showing up. The one that says I was scared, but I moved anyway.